In the courtroom, they said that I was to blame because I'm G.G. Allin. Okay. I'm the king of the underground. They need to nail me to a cross.
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today, we're looking at 50 terrible crimes allegedly committed by musicians that shocked the world and impacted their careers.
The abuse took place at the height of Glitter's fame. One of the girls was younger than 10 when she was attacked.
Arthur Lee, Love.
If I blink right now, I'm telling a lie. If I blink right now, I'm telling the truth.
Arthur Lee rose to fame leading the psychedelic rock band Love, whose 1967 album Forever Changes eventually earned a Grammy Hall of Fame spot. While this music garnered acclaim, his personal life was plagued by crime. He'd already been jailed for arson and faced multiple arrests for drugs and assault, among other offenses.
People make mistakes, but people have choices to make. And when you're at the crossroads, sometimes you go on the wrong path.
His troubles escalated, leading to his most serious conviction in 1996. That year, he was arrested for illegally possessing and firing a gun in public. Lee denied it and was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Though appeals saw him released early, the damage was lasting. Upon release, Lee tried to rebuild his career. His genius remained, but so did the shadow of his crime.
Love is more than words, that's what I heard. So I'm passing on what I have learned.
Billy Preston.
Don't you remember I told you I'm a soldier in the war on poverty?
The keyboard wizard Billy Preston was so talented. He was famously dubbed the Fifth Beatle after lending his genius to that legendary group. Yet behind the spotlight, his personal life was anything but golden. Preston racked up charges ranging from indecent assault involving a minor to attacking someone with a weapon, and his drug problems only made things worse.
If you could give us that chord at the end of John's solos, it was...
In the 90s, he got arrested for cocaine possession and remanded to rehab, but violating probation landed him in prison. While locked up, he was even indicted for insurance fraud and pleaded guilty, serving additional time. Preston's life proved that a chain of destructive choices can ruin your legacy. Pete Doherty, The Libertines. Music star Pete Doherty, co-frontman of the Libertines, may well be remembered not for his music, but for his long dance with the law. From 2003 to 2017, he was arrested multiple times, from burglaring his bandmate's flat in 2003 to theft, drug possession, drunk or drug-fueled driving, and even cocaine or heroin use. His crimes knew no bounds.
Never growing up an indie boy fantasy that never gets old. Only this year, Doherty turned 40, an age he once thought he'd never reach. Doherty's destructive descent into heroin addiction is well documented.
Pete tried time and again to break free from substance use disorder. Courts ordered rehabs and driving bans kept him off the road. And he was even refused entry into the U.S. But each attempt at redemption was undone by another relapse. Pete finally claimed sobriety, but we can't help but remember the footprint of chaos he has left behind. Son House.
You know I didn't feel so bad till the good Lord's son went down. I didn't have a soul to throw my arms around.
Before he became a blues legend, Son House was a preacher who wanted nothing to do with secular music. But in 1927, he swapped sermons for songs and stepped into the world of blues with a guitar in hand. With whiskey and trouble never far behind, House played in juke joints. One night, while House performed, a gunman opened fire, wounding him. House shot back, killed the man, and was later convicted.
I say I can read your little writing now, baby. Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't care why in this old world.
Given a 15-year jail term at Parchman, he served just 2 before walking free. After release, he teamed up with Charlie Patton and later found fame in the folk revival. Ironically, the music that once dragged him into crime became the very thing that immortalized him.
I said, that little girl don't go crazy. I believe she gonna lose her mind.
Boy George, Culture Club.
Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry?
Culture Club's lead singer Boy George once had the world in his hands, chart-topping hits, bold style, and a persona that lit up the 80s. But beneath all that, his struggle with substance use disorder simmered dangerously. He'd been arrested for suspected drug possession, though never charged. But something darker was ahead. In 2007, George violently assaulted and unlawfully imprisoned a male escort, Auden Carlson, after what began as a photo session.
The musician was found guilty last month of falsely imprisoning male escort Auden Carlson. He says it was in this flat in Shoreditch, East London, that Boy George whipped him with a metal chain and shackled him as he tried to escape.
The gruesome encounter shocked fans worldwide. The following year, George was convicted and handed a 15-month prison sentence, though he'd served just 4 before being released under curfew and monitoring. For George, who had once embodied glamour and success, his conviction remains a lasting disgrace.
When I went to trial, I was a year clean, so I was already sober. So that person I was in court and the person that had been arrested, they were 2 different people.
Adam Ant. Adam and the Ants.
Goody two, goody two, goody goody two shoes. Goody two, goody two, goody goody two shoes.
Stuart Leslie Goddard, better known as Adam Ant, was once the glittering face of the new wave era, leading his group Adam and the Ants to international fame. But away from the spotlight was a man with serious mental health struggles, something he spoke about openly.
As a performer, I feel more... You know, there's certain things in music you can do, but it all goes very quickly. With acting, I like the pace of it, and making records and performing something that's in my heart.
In 2002, things took a different turn when he smashed a pub window with a car alternator and later waved a starting pistol, frightening those inside. Adam was charged with property damage and disturbing public order, then sentenced to 12 months of rehabilitation under a suspended sentence. Just a year later, he was arrested again for suspected criminal damage, but directed to hospital care instead. For all of Adam's brilliance, it's the battles within that cast the darkest shadow.
And there was a part of me niggling, saying, you know, really you should get back in and do this. You should really, because there's a part of me that you know, was kind of missing a little bit.
Chris Brown. American singer Chris Brown, known for his electrifying voice and jaw-dropping dance moves, had the world at his feet. He dated Rihanna, and they became one of music's power couples. But their relationship took a tragic turn in 2009. A heated argument spiraled out of control, and Brown physically assaulted her, leaving Rihanna hospitalized.
Do you really get the severity of what happened?
Of course, 100%. I think what it is, when people see me smiling and kind of nonchalantly giving answers or saying things, is I'm human.
The music world and fans were stunned. Brown pleaded guilty to felony charges and was sentenced to 5 years of probation with a restraining order. In a surprising twist, Rihanna confirmed in 2013 that they were dating again, though they eventually split for good. More than a decade later, the incident continues to overshadow his achievements. Brown's once thriving career has become a ghost of itself.
I walk, I ran, I jumped, I flew right off the ground to flow to you.
See Murder.
You don't wanna mess with that Glock, boy. Test me with that Glock, you get pop, boy. On the spot, money busting out my socks, boy.
See Murder was a fast-rising rapper on No Limits Records, a label founded by his brother, Master P. He was beginning to carve his own name in hip-hop, but in 2002, his career derailed after a nightclub altercation turned deadly.
I give a toast to your soldiers, you ain't die for nothing. And read the Bible, say every death means something.
Teenage fan Steve Thomas was beaten and fatally shot, and the rapper was arrested in connection. The case dragged on for years. Witnesses changed their stories, and a mistrial followed. While on house arrest, he released music, hoping his career could survive. Then, in 2009, new witness testimony and a retrial sealed his fate. He was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life behind bars. Though C. Murder maintains his innocence and continues to appeal, his once promising career is long gone.
Corey Miller, known to many of you as C. Murder, has spent more than a decade in prison. And up until a few days ago, he wasn't sure if he'd ever get out.
I've been snatched away from my family, from raising my game, and from my career, from everything.
Lead Belly. Huddy Leadbelly Ledbetter is remembered as one of the most powerful voices in blues and folk music with his mastery of the 12-string guitar. But away from the stage, he was no stranger to crime. In 1915, he was arrested and sentenced for carrying a pistol, only to escape and live under an alias. Just 3 years later, he killed his relative, Will Stafford, in a fight and was locked away in Texas. Yet, remarkably, he secured an early release in 1925 after writing a song that impressed Governor Pat Morris Neff. His freedom didn't keep him straight. He later returned to jail for stabbing another man in yet another fight. Leadbelly's musical genius was undeniable, but violence forever shadowed his life.
Irene, good night. Irene, good night.
Tory Lanez.
You gon' have to do more than just. You gon' have to do less for you. So, mama, you know I always want you to.
One of Canada's brightest stars, Tory Lanez isn't just any artist. He's versatile, blending hip-hop and R&B into chart-topping hits. So you can imagine the shock in 2020 when his horrible crime made headlines. Turns out, after leaving a party in Hollywood Hills, Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, and others argued in a car. Tensions escalated and Lanez fired a gun, hitting Megan in the feet. She publicly named him as the shooter, while Lanez denied it, sparking fan divisions and intense media scrutiny. Years of courtroom drama followed until 2022, when Lanez was convicted on 3 felony charges. The following year, he was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Just like that, one reckless act tarnished a flourishing career.
His lawyer said there was a botched investigation. The prosecution said the evidence pointed towards his guilt. And what we've just seen are 2 unusually long days during the sentencing phase of this trial.
Mystikal.
Forget it, can't. Pop my head down, popping on the hands.
With an unmistakable voice, loud, booming, and full of fire, Mystikal lit up the charts with hits like Danger. But behind that powerful voice was years of violence and crime. In 2003, he pleaded guilty to sexual assault and extorting his hairstylist, earning 6 years behind bars.
It could be your time and it might be. You can't do nothing about it, it's God's will, that's just how life be.
After his release, what followed were prison time for domestic abuse and probation violation, each dragging him further down. In 2017, he was again indicted for assault and kidnapping charges, though those were later dropped. Then, finally, in 2022, he was arrested on first-degree assault charges and denied bond. As of September 2025, Mystikal's still locked up awaiting trial and faces life in prison if convicted. His music? It's fading under the weight of a stained legacy.
This warrant for Mystikal's arrest details exactly what he's accused of. The woman had cuts, bruises on her arms, leg, face, mouth, and neck and hair yanked from her scalp.
Jan Latham-Koenig.
Conducting is a profession where experience of life, learning to deal with people, a constantly deepening sense of music, changing your mind, rethinking things.
BBC's acclaimed conductor Jan Latham-Koenig seemed destined for a lasting legacy in classical music. His artistry earned him an OBE in 2020, celebrating his contributions to international cultural relations. However, in January 2024, his illustrious career came crashing down.
So please come to the concert and wallow in the nostalgia of La Dolce Vita, Amarcord, 8½, La Strada, the mission, etc.
Latham-Koenig was arrested for attempting to meet a minor he had contacted via a dating app. He pleaded guilty to 2 of the 3 charges, receiving a 14-month prison sentence, which was suspended for 2 years. In the aftermath, he was dismissed from his post at Teatro Colón and stripped of his OBE in August 2025. With this personal misconduct, Latham-Koenig brought ill repute to his once prestigious career.
Amongst my most special musical experiences, the first night of the new production of Tristan that we did at the Novi Opera, for which we won the Golden Mask. The sheer intensity of the experience is something that will never, ever leave my memory.
Big Lurch, Cosmic Slop Shop.
I mean, all I can remember, the world was going to end, and I had to find the devil and kill the devil before the world ended. That's the last thought.
Antron Singleton Sr., professionally known as Big Lurch, was an American rapper whose talent emerged as early as age 7. He later joined the hip-hop group Cosmic Slop Shop, but after they disbanded in 1999, he pursued a solo career.
If you really got the stamina, they're all dark as chocolate thunder dunk when I'm slamming up.
But in 2002, tragedy struck. Lurch murdered his roommate Tynesha Yeseas in their shared apartment, and in a gruesome twist, committed acts of cannibalism on the victim. Yeseas' boyfriend claimed that he had taken PCP with Lurch a day before, a chilling prelude to the violence that followed. The rapper pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, but was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Yeseas' life and Lurch's rising career were erased in an instant by that horrifying act. Claudine Longet. Bursting into the acting and music scene in the 1960s, Parisian-born Claudine Longet settled into a life as a celebrity and her marriage to singer Andy Williams.
I tell you one thing, Claudine. Putting a tricycle together is not one of my favorite things.
What's the matter?
After her marriage dissolved, in March 1976, Longet was in Aspen, Colorado with her partner Vladimir Spider Sabic, an Olympic skier. According to Longet, Sabic was demonstrating to her how to use a firearm when he was fatally shot.
That was her defense, that Spider was showing her how to use the gun because he was leaving and it went off accidentally.
However, she was convicted of negligent homicide in 1977. She received a fine and a 30-day jail sentence, but was allowed to decide when she went in.
It's a far cry from the 2-year max, and Claudine is also allowed the luxury of doing her time when it's convenient. The Savage family and most of Aspen is in shock.
Upon release, Longet disappeared from public life and married her defense attorney, Ronald Austin. Liam Gallagher, Oasis. If you're at all familiar with Oasis, you're well aware the brothers that formed the band are often a step away from beating each other to a bloody pulp. However, Noel isn't the only one who faced Liam's wrath. While on tour in Australia in March of 1998, Liam didn't take kindly to a fan named Benjamin Jones who tried to get a photo with the British rocker. According to the police report, Gallagher responded by punching and headbutting the fan, which resulted in a broken nose. Due to the seriousness of the injury, Liam faced up to 10 years in prison for his actions, but the charges were eventually dropped, with Jones settling with the Oasis singer out of court. Courtney Love, Hole. Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love are defining figures from the era of grunge music, and their bands Nirvana and Hole, respectively, are about as iconic as you can get. These groups broke the mold of 90s rock by touching on complex and dark subject matter, including gender issues and body image. Unfortunately, both suffered from substance use disorder, and it's here where many of Love's legal issues began. After an overdose in 1994, Love was charged with possession of a controlled substance and paraphernalia. Only 24 hours later, Cobain would be found dead at their Seattle home. Sadly, this was just the start of Love's legal troubles, who has since faced charges of assault, disorderly conduct, and reckless endangerment. Jimmy Chamberlin, The Smashing Pumpkins. Going from one iconic rock band to the next, the Smashing Pumpkins were tremendously influential in the realm of alternative rock, but were also playing with fire as recreational opiate users. While touring the U.S. in 1996, an overdose led to the death of Pumpkins keyboardist Jonathan Melvoin. Jimmy Chamberlin, the band's drummer, and Melvoin were in a separate hotel to the rest of the band, and after both went unconscious under the influence of illegal substances, Chamberlin would wake up hours later to find his friend and bandmate unresponsive. Because Chamberlin was in the presence of Melvoin at the time of his overdose, the drummer was charged with criminal possession of a controlled substance, but later reached a plea deal over the incident. Tripp Eisen, Static X. The crimes committed by this former Static X member are nothing short of horrific. Static X, if you're not aware, is a heavy metal band that rose to fame during the nu metal craze of the 90s. Fast forward to 2005, when the band's main guitarist Tripp Eisen is facing a sex scandal involving two different minors, and he is promptly booted from the band. The band's swift action towards Eisen was certainly the right move, and it was only the beginning of Eisen's downfall. He would do time in prison for his actions, for both the original charges and a parole violation. Scott Weiland, Stone Temple Pilots. Once the lead singer of Stone Temple Pilots, Weiland's one-of-a-kind vocal delivery and charismatic stage presence made him part of the elite class of 90s rock frontmen. As with other rock stars on this list, however, Scott Weiland's life and legal history is sadly intertwined with substance use disorder. Having been arrested for buying illegal drugs in 1995, he would soon face charges of domestic violence and DUI. Throughout all this, the singer was making his mark on gold, platinum, and multi-platinum albums with Stone Temple Pilots, but was eventually booted from the band. That didn't stop him from continuing on with Velvet Revolver for several years before the vocalist's unfortunate death from an overdose in 2015. Scott Stapp, Creed. While not a Christian band, Creed's music does contain some religious and moral messages, which made it all the more surprising that the band's lead singer Scott Stapp was at one time under the eye of the United States Secret Service because he threatened to assassinate Barack Obama. This all appeared to be a psychiatric episode of some kind, wherein the My Sacrifice singer was apparently riding a bicycle around his neighborhood carrying hundreds of CIA documents and other paraphernalia. While far from being his first run-in with the law, the threat probably was not 100% genuine considering Stapp's mental state at the time. Marilyn Manson. The severe allegations of abuse made against Marilyn Manson in 2021 by actor Evan Rachel Wood and many others are disturbing to say the absolute least. But that's just the latest string of controversies the industrial musician finds himself in. Back in 2001, he was charged with criminal sexual assault of a security guard. This case was eventually dropped, but it was a sign of many more things to come. Multiple women filed lawsuits alleging abuse in addition to the aforementioned Wood case, although a criminal assault investigation that concluded in 2025 did not result in filed charges. However, Manson was dropped by his record label and talent agency, and despite continuing to tour, the career he once had clearly hasn't been the same since. Anthony Kiedis, Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's never fun to learn that some of your favorite artists are guilty of downright deplorable acts. Red Hot Chili Peppers were about as big as you could get in the 90s and onward, and songs like Californication epitomize 90s culture. But not long after that song's release in 1999, lead singer Anthony Kiedis published a memoir where he detailed, among other things, a sexual relationship with a young woman who Kiedis learned was a minor at the time. It was a shocking admission of guilt. Unsurprisingly, Kiedis soon after asked members of his family not to read the book. Fred Durst, Limp Bizkit.
I looked around and I had never seen that many people before.
In 2021, a pair of documentary series about the Woodstock 1999 Music Festival and subsequent riot arrived on streaming platforms, with one red-capped figure featured prominently in both: Limp Bizkit lead singer Fred Durst.
It's just one of those days!
While it's clear that his break stuff chants had an effect on the crowds, Durst didn't get charged with any crimes at the time, as the festival was a giant organizational failure. But it was characteristic of the new metal singer who in 1999 kicked a security guard in the head and was arrested after the show. He also ran down a few people in his car in LA in October of 2006. It's surprising he's never been sent to an anger management class. Sebastian Bach, Skid Row. Hard rock band Skid Row was a prominent part of the hair metal craze of the late 80s and early 90s. In December 1989, the group played as one of the opening acts for Aerosmith at the Springfield Civic Center in Massachusetts. While performing, frontman Sebastian Bach was hit in the head with a bottle thrown by one of the audience members.
Here's Skid Row with Sebastian Bach.
Enraged, Bach flung the bottle back and it hit an innocent girl. He then lunged into the crowd and kicked another fan repeatedly before being pulled back by some of the stage crew. Bach was arrested after the show and was eventually mandated to pay a cash settlement of around $500,000.
Jail is not a very good experience.
But the moment you knew that this is where you're going.
What, to jail?
Yeah.
Axl Rose, Guns N' Roses. On July 2nd, 1991, LA band Guns N' Roses played at the Riverport Amphitheater in Missouri.
Police in the St. Louis suburb of Maryland Heights are blaming Axl Rose for a riot which broke out Tuesday night at the Guns N' Roses show at the Riverport Amphitheater.
While performing their song Rocket Queen, frontman Axl Rose noticed a fan who was supposedly taking pictures. He initially called for security to seize the camera, but when it seemed quite impossible, he jumped into the crowd and did so himself.
Hey, take that! Now, get that guy and take that! I'll take it, goddammit!
After being pulled back on stage, Rose smashed his mic and walked out, followed by the rest of the band. Angry fans broke into a violent riot that injured 65 people and resulted in property damage worth about $200,000. Rose was eventually arrested on charges related to the riot and was sentenced to 2 years probation.
We've just been waiting till to get the case somewhat solidified and in writing before we go, because I don't want to go there and get set up.
Great White. Although LA metal band Great White formed in 1977, their commercial success came largely during the 80s. After dissolving in 2001, some of the group's members kept performing together. They received national attention in February 2003 for a show at a Rhode Island nightclub called The Station that went horribly awry.
This was a tragedy caught on film from the very beginning. The band had just started playing. Ironically, the man taking these pictures was shooting a video about safety at pop venues.
Part of their act featured a fireworks display that unfortunately lit up the flammable foam used in the room and started a fire. While most of the band members made it out alive, a large number of the audience was trapped in the building and 100 of them lost their lives. The band paid the victims and their families a settlement of $1 million, but were publicly absolved of the crime.
You know, the frustrating thing is there's nothing that I can ever say that will ever make anybody feel any better. What do you say when somebody's lost a loved one?
G.G. Allin. Born in Lancaster, New Hampshire in 1956, G.G. Allin grew up to become one of rock music's most polarizing figures.
My mission is to put danger back into rock and roll, something that's been missing for a real long time. And I use my rock and roll as a weapon against society, the government, and the industry itself, who is trying to confine this type of music.
Having performed with multiple bands over the years, Allin gained notoriety for his controversial stage antics, some of which were too repulsive to even mention. Throughout his career, he was involved in several legal issues, most notably in 19 1989, when he was arrested on assault charges.
How many times have you been in jail?
I've been in jail. I've been arrested over 52 times. I've spent 3 years in prison.
Apparently, Allin had inflicted bodily harm on a woman who decided to press charges. The rock star countered her claims by pointing out inconsistencies in the woman's story and maintaining that she had given him consent. Regardless, he pled guilty to felonious assault and served 15 months in prison.
I went to prison for 2 years for what I did to a girl, and she did the same thing to me, but because she was a girl, they let her off.
Rick James. Rick James ruled the charts in the early 80s with his unique blend of funk, rock, and new wave, churning out hits like Give It To Me Baby and Super Freak.
That girl is pretty wild now. Girl's a super freak. The kind of girl you read about in magazine.
But while he saw success in the 80s, the following decade proved to be a tumultuous one. In 1991, James and his girlfriend Tanya Ann Hijazi were arrested and charged with the forced imprisonment and assault of a young woman.
It was a month ago yesterday that Rick James was arrested along with his girlfriend Tanya Hijazi for allegedly imprisoning a 24-year-old woman in his Hollywood Hills home.
James was awaiting trial for that incident when he assaulted yet another woman, this time a music executive named Mary Sauger. For both crimes, he faced a possible life sentence, but was luckily acquitted of a torture charge.
His attorney says proving the story is false will be the easy part. It's getting James out of jail on bail that's proved frustrating.
He ended up spending 5 years in prison. Ozzy Osbourne. As the frontman of Black Sabbath and later, as a solo artist, Ozzy Osbourne helped bring heavy metal to the fore in the 70s and 80s. Throughout his decades-long career, Osbourne publicly struggled with alcohol and substance use disorders that put him in trouble with the law on multiple occasions. He was once arrested for relieving himself at the Battle of the Alamo Cenotaph in San Antonio, Texas, while intoxicated.
Osbourne was banned from performing in the Alamo City after this incident. He was allowed back in 1992 after an apology and a donation of $10,000 to the Daughters of the Republic of Texas.
But perhaps his most egregious offense occurred in August 1989, when he reportedly attacked his wife Sharon in a drunken state, with the intention of killing her.
How close did it get?
Pretty damn close. Pretty damn close.
He was picked up by police and charged with attempted murder. However, after spending 6 months in a rehabilitation program, Sharon decided to drop the charges. Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx, Motley Crue. When they weren't selling millions of records of their debauchery-riddled tunes, the members of Motley Crue were seemingly deep in legal trouble.
The infamous drummer Tommy Lee and bass guitarist Nikki Sixx were handcuffed and hauled off to jail.
In October 1997, the band played a show at the Greensboro Coliseum in North Carolina that quickly devolved into chaos. Apparently, founding members Tommy Lee and Nikki Sixx had incited a riot at the show and then turned fans on one of the security guards who tried to contain the situation.
This home video shows Tommy Lee pouring a beer on the crowd while Nikki Sixx encourages fans to get up on the stage.
Sixx reportedly yelled racial slurs at the guard and doused him with alcohol, alongside Lee. The two were arrested and eventually fined and sentenced to probation for the incident. Around the same time, Lee also had served a 6-month jail sentence for striking his then-wife, Pamela Anderson.
People are saying, that I had beaten Pamela. That is not true. That's just not true. Grabbing a woman and shaking a woman is not cool either.
Vince Neil. Speaking of Motley Crue, in 1984, frontman Vince Neil also made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Neil was hosting the Finnish rock band Hanoi Rocks at his LA home while they were on tour in the US.
We're having like a cool barbecue, party.
The drummer of the band Hanoi Rocks, Nicholas Dingley, aka Razzle, was hanging out with the band.
Both band members partied at Neil's house for days and eventually ran out of booze. Neil, alongside Hanoi Rocks drummer Nicholas Razzle Dingley, went on a liquor run while being heavily intoxicated.
The store was just right down the street, and let's go get some beer. And it was just on the way back, I lost control of the car and spun out of control.
On their way back, Neil drove right into an oncoming car, severely injuring both passengers and killing Dingley eventually. The Motley Crue vocalist survived the accident and was later sentenced to 30 days in jail and made to pay a $2.6 million settlement to the victims.
Having the band explode and be that big and then have something like this happen.
The best way I can sum it up is he hurt a lot of people.
It's like, guys, it's an accident, and they didn't see it that way.
Sean Diddy Combs.
Here you had this person, Sean Combs, who had been very well loved, respected in the public eye for a quarter century or more, suddenly accused of these horrible acts.
Where do we even begin with Sean Diddy Combs? For decades, he was hip-hop royalty, launching stars through Bad Boy Records and building an empire that stretched far beyond music. But in November 2023, the world was rocked when his former longtime girlfriend Cassie Ventura filed a lawsuit against him. She accused him of years of abuse, assault, and manipulation, even alleging he had her ex, Kid Cudi's car blown up.
I hear the tears of a clown. I hate that song. I always feel like they're talking to me when it comes on. Another day, another dawn.
Though that case was settled. Federal charges, which were even more damning, soon followed in 2024. By May 2025, he was standing trial, pleading not guilty while being held in custody. Now, as the cases unravel, Diddy's behind bars, fighting for his freedom and watching his legacy crumble beyond repair.
Now his mother and children will have to sit through the lurid details of those alleged freak-offs for the next 8 weeks of the trial. And if he's found guilty, Combs could face life in prison.
R. Kelly.
It's the remix to Ignition, hot and fresh out the kitchen. Mama rolling that body, got every man in here wishing.
What do you remember about R. Kelly? For years, it was his magnificent voice and award-winning hits. He even took home 3 Grammys and was dubbed the King of R&B. But while fans sang along, dark truths about the singer loomed. In 1994, he allegedly married teenage star Aaliyah, sparking concerns. Then in 2002, he was charged with indecent assault and possessing explicit materials involving minors, but walked away acquitted. For a while, it seemed he dodged accountability, until 2019, when surviving R. Kelly reignited public scrutiny.
I can only imagine that he got caught up and lost himself in the fame and the fortune.
This time, the law caught up, and between 2021 and 2022, he was convicted on multiple counts and sentenced to 31 years in prison. Now, our memories are no longer about R. Kelly's music, but his hideous crimes.
You sound like you're playing the victim here. You sound like R. Kelly, you do. When I listen to you, it does sound like you're playing the victim
I'm just telling the truth. And the reason I'm emotional,
Robert,
and I apologize for that, is because this is the first time I was able to say
speak.
something. Yeah. I've said nothing.
Spade Cooley. As the self-styled king of Western swing, Spade Cooley was one of the biggest country musicians in the 1940s into the 50s.
Thus begins the story of Spade Cooley, who, descended from a long line of Western wildcats, was fast to become one of the nation's leading pep cats.
He even got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1960. But in April 1961, Cooley tarnished his reputation forever. His wife, Ella Mae Evans, was reportedly looking to leave him. Filled with rage, Cooley attacked and killed Evans in front of their daughter, Melody, who testified against her father in court. He received a life sentence. With the support of California Governor Ronald Reagan, Cooley was set to be paroled in 1970. However, during a brief release to perform at a benefit concert, Cooley had a heart attack and passed away off stage. Bobby Beausoleil. After carving out a career in music and acting, Bobby Beausoleil's life changed for the worse in 1968 when he met Charles Manson and his family.
The atmosphere of peace, love, and drugs created an ideal backdrop for prison convict Charles Manson to build what he called his family.
In July 1969, Beausoleil, Susan Atkins, and Mary Bruner were sent by the cult leader to demand money from Beausoleil's former housemate, Gary Hinman. However, he didn't have the cash. Hinman was held captive and attacked over 3 days by Manson and his followers. On Manson's orders, Beausoleil killed Hinman. Over a week later, Beausoleil was arrested while sleeping in Hinman's vehicle, which he took from the scene. He was found guilty of murder. His 1970 death sentence was later changed to life imprisonment, and he has been denied parole over a dozen times. Joe Meek. A trailblazer in experimental music mixed with space-age themes, this producer was best known for his work in creating the Tornadoes smash hit Telstar in 1962. also had a troubled side. In his last years, paranoia and mood swings seemed to consume him. In February 1967, at his home studio in London, Meek was allegedly behaving erratically.
He was a sick man the last 6 months, there's no doubt about that. He was taking these tablets for depression, and they didn't seem to do him a lot of good.
He got into an argument with his landlady, Violet Shenton, over noise complaints and unpaid rent. The producer took out a firearm he had confiscated from ex-Tornadoes member Heinz Burt and shot Shenton before taking his own life.
And I heard the bang. I mean, it was an almighty bang. I ran out. I was just about to run up the stairs, and Mrs. Shenton was falling down.
Jim Gordon. As one of the most in-demand session drummers and writers around, Jim Gordon worked with massive names such as Eric Clapton, John Lennon, Barbra Streisand, and Tom Petty. But behind the scenes, Gordon was struggling with schizophrenia. Despite trying to get medical help, he was never properly diagnosed, so his problems continued. In June 1983, Gordon killed his mom at her Los Angeles home, claiming to hear her voice tormenting him in his head. He was later sentenced to 16 years to life in prison. Over the years, he was denied parole many times, typically because he didn't go to his hearings. In March 2023, Gordon passed away in jail from natural causes. Faust. Bård Guldvik Eiten, better known as Faust, was a drummer for the Norwegian black metal band Emperor. But in August 1992, a year after the band was formed, his career took a dark swing. While in Lillehammer, Faust met Magne Andreasen, who allegedly flirted with him. The drummer went with Andreasen to the woods.
Not here.
There, Faust stabbed him to death. In later interviews, Faust insisted he wasn't motivated by homophobia. Instead, he described the slaying as an impulse killing. After admitting to his guilt, he was sentenced to 14 years in prison in 1994. Faust was released in 2003 and restarted his music career. Beasts of Satan. For years, Italy was plagued by a streak of crimes committed by the Beasts of Satan. While not all members of this group were musicians, they were all allegedly Satanist.
Little by little, the group will drift towards Satanism, adoration of the devil.
In 1998, Chiara Marino and Fabio Tolis were stabbed to death by group members while they were reportedly under the influence and carrying out a supernatural rite. Then in 2004, Mariangela Pezzotta was shot.
While investigators interrogate the suspect, other officers go to Anna Maria Pezzotta's residence to announce the terrible news. Her daughter, Mariangela, was assassinated in the Gola Seca cottage.
From 2005 to 2006, 8 members were tried for their roles in the crime spree, with 1 member cleared while the rest received sentences ranging from 16 years to life imprisonment. Ferocity and Psycho-Blasphemy band member Andrea Volpe and his girlfriend Elisabetta Ballerin, who helped the former, were ultimately released from prison. It's believed the Beasts of Satan could be responsible for over a dozen other unsolved cases, either directly or indirectly. Bertrand Cantat. Formed in 1980, French rock band Noir Désir was one of the biggest in the country. Led by Bertrand Cantat, the band's reputation would change in July 2003. Cantat had traveled to a hotel in Vilnius, Lithuania, with married actor Marie Trintignant, with whom he was having an affair. During an argument, a jealous Cantat allegedly attacked Trintignant. After losing consciousness and being taken to the hospital, Trintignant died from her injuries a few days later. Cantat was sentenced to 8 years in jail. After serving half his sentence, he was released in 2007. 3 years later, Cantat's ex-wife Christina Roddy, who had supported Cantat during the trial, took her own life months after suspected abuse from the musician. However, authorities didn't press charges. Sid Vicious, the Sex Pistols. Punk music was burning bright in 1978, and Sid Vicious, the wild bassist of the Sex Pistols, embodied its reckless energy. But the scene got grimmer in October, when his love story headed for disaster after a wild night of partying. Sid's girlfriend Nancy Spungen was found dead the next morning, stabbed in the abdomen. Sid appeared restless and confused, and then later confessed they'd argued and he had stabbed her, though he claimed it wasn't intentional. He was arrested, spiraled into despair, even attempting to take his own life twice. Then in February 1979, just out on bail, Sid overdosed and died. A note in his jacket revealed a chilling death pact with Nancy, with their chaotic romance ending as Punk's most haunting tragedy.
In the end, I was the only one who had any anarchy left in me. The rest of the band, they couldn't take it.
Dave Holland, Judas Priest. While Judas Priest went through a number of drummers during their career, Dave Holland was something of a mainstay who worked with the band on a number of high-profile albums. But Holland's legacy was forever tainted in the early 2000s. During a court case, he was convicted for assaulting and attempting to initiate indecent contact with a young drumming student. Despite his insistence that nothing inappropriate had happened, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Holland also had his work on an upcoming album completely taken off so someone else could come in and record his part. After the grim news of the story broke, the musician unsuccessfully attempted to refute the claims and recover his reputation. Tim Lambesis, As I Lay Dying.
Supplied money, supplied gate codes, supplied dates that would be convenient.
Vocalist Tim Lambesis led the popular metalcore outfit As I Lay Dying as they achieved chart success and garnered various awards. However, the band nearly came to a permanent end due to his actions. Lambesis once asked a criminal to assassinate his ex-wife while the vocalist was watching his kids. But the musician didn't know that he was actually speaking to a detective who immediately reported the meeting.
When specifically asked, do you want her dead? He said, yes, that's exactly what I want.
Lambesis eventually pleaded guilty and spent a little over a decade in jail for his grim solicitation. After serving his time, he managed to reunite with the band and release more music. In the years since his attempted crime, Lambesis has admitted that his actions were wrong. Norwegian black metal artists. The Norwegian black metal scene gained worldwide attention in the early 90s, thanks to some truly infamous crimes. One of the most visually arresting and notorious crimes from the scene was the rash of church burnings perpetrated by members of the scene. According to several interviews and reports, members of the musical collective resented various religious groups. Throughout the 90s, a number of Norwegian churches were burnt down. Individuals like Varg Vikernes of the band Burzum and Samith from a group called Emperor were both caught. However, many cases still went unsolved. Both historic churches and at least one life was lost during these arson attacks. Chuck Berry.
Good evening, ladies.
You're him, aren't you?
Well, what him are you looking for?
This godfather of rock and roll was infamous for committing several serious crimes.
Now you can't catch me. Baby, you can't catch me.
A woman once accused Berry of attacking and injuring her at a hotel. A few years later, he was accused of illegally recording people within bathrooms of his restaurant that bore his name. Officers were able to find tapes that supported those claims as well as marijuana. Berry ultimately spent a small fortune in fines and for his defense to address the case. Decades before that scandal, the musician was brought to court after he brought a girl from Mexico to Missouri. Although he claimed it was to give her a job opportunity, she claimed he had darker intentions. The jury found Berry guilty after a trial, and he received a 3-year sentence.
I know that my very good dear friend, Mr. Jerry Lee Lewis, has a 13-year-old wife. We're stopping by his home on the way.
Gary Glitter. Gary Glitter enjoyed great success as a glam rock musician in the 70s and 80s, only to be disgraced in the late 90s, when he was found in possession of explicit materials involving minors. Glitter was arrested and sentenced to 4 months in prison.
I deeply regret doing what I was sent to prison for. I've served my time, I want to put it all behind me.
After his release, he fled to Cambodia, where his predatory actions continued. He subsequently moved to Vietnam, where he was also implicated on charges related to molestation and handed a 3-year prison sentence.
His defense team claim Glitter is a very different man now after seeking professional help, but the judge said he could see no real evidence of atonement.
Glitter was deported back to the UK following his release and placed on the sex offender registry for life. In 2014, he faced additional charges of indecent assault for crimes committed back in the 70s. His conviction came with a prison sentence of 16 years, but was released early after serving only 8 years.
Do we know why he has been released early?
No indication yet as to why he's only served half of this 16-year sentence, but as you mentioned, there will be licence conditions that he will be subject to now upon his release.
Karl Logan, Man-O-War.
I want you all to give a metal welcome to Karl Logan. Ready to rock, brother.
Karl Logan was a longtime guitarist for American heavy metal legends Man-O-War. His tenure with the band was brought to an abrupt end when he was arrested in 2018. During an investigation, it was found that Logan had multiple illegal recordings of young people being assaulted. Within a week of the arrest, Man-O-War officially severed all ties with the guitarist. Logan eventually stated that he knowingly possessed the exploitative content in courts. Ultimately, he was tasked with spending just over a decade of his life in prison in 2022. Man-O-War's swift reaction to Logan's arrest makes it highly unlikely he'll reunite with the band again. Ian Watkins, Lost Prophets. Charges against former Lost Prophets singer Ian Watkins were so severe that he was the subject of a sting operation dubbed Operation Globe. The investigation uncovered that the musician had participated in a number of malicious crimes. During court proceedings, Watkins admitted that he had assaulted victims who could not consent to adult activity on multiple occasions. Authorities also discovered he had a large amount of videos of illegal acts in his possession. Additionally, the former musician's co-defendants were also mothers of a few of his alleged victims. After receiving a 29-year prison conviction, Watkins was still caught trying to reach and exploit women outside of his facility before being killed by 2 inmates in October 2025.
Because he shows no emotion, he shows no sympathy, he shows no guilt, and in this case, the evidence is overwhelming.
Varg Vikernes, Burzum and Mayhem. While the crimes of the rock stars mentioned here are certainly shocking, if there were one case that was truly infamous, it would be that of Varg Vikernes.
I told them this is nothing to do with Satanism, and they never paid any attention to what I said.
Vikernes, already mentioned for his role in church burnings, fronted up several Norwegian black metal acts in the 90s, most notably Burzum. Before that, though, he was part of another group called Mayhem. When Mayhem's lead singer suddenly took his own life in 1991, the guitar player of the band, who went by the name Euronymous, exploited this sad turn of events, using it to enhance the band's macabre image. More drama ensued, leading to the fatal stabbing of Euronymous in 1993 by Vikernes, who claimed the killing was in self-defense. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Phil Spector. Phil Spector's brief time on the performing side of rock was soon eclipsed by his legacy as one of the genre's most talented and successful producers. But those accomplishments were then overshadowed by an infamous crime. On a fateful night in 2003, actress Lana Clarkson went over to Spector's house. A driver soon heard a gunshot and found the performer dead. In the wake of this discovery, Spector both said he did it and claimed that she was responsible. The first attempt at convicting him of the crime resulted in a mistrial, but the second trial found him guilty. After he was sentenced to nearly 2 decades of jail time, he died in prison in 2021. Which of these musicians' crimes shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments section.